Lily Crawford stared out the viewport of the diplomatic shuttle as Earth shrank behind them. She pressed her small hand against the cold glass, watching her home planet become just another blue dot in the vastness of space. At 10 years old, Lily had never left Earth before today. "Dad, how long until we reach the Senate station?" Lily adjusted her glasses and turned to her father. William Crawford looked up from his data tablet with a tired smile. 5 years into humanity's membership in the Galactic Confederation, and he still felt overwhelmed by the responsibility of representing Earth. 18 hours, sweetheart. The jump gate will take us most of the way, but we'll still have some travel time after that. He ruffled her curly brown hair. You should try to sleep soon. Lily nodded but had no intention of sleeping. How could anyone sleep when traveling through space for the first time? She pulled out her puzzle tablet instead, fingers dancing across the screen as she solved complex mathematical problems that would challenge most adults. William watched his daughter with a mixture of pride and worry. He hadn't planned to bring Lily on this diplomatic mission, but his ex-wife was traveling for work, and his usual childcare had fallen through at the last minute. The Galactic Senate meeting was too important to miss. Earth needed to secure trade rights for rare minerals, so here they were, father and daughter heading to Centauri Prime together. Remember the rules we discussed, William said. During meetings, you stay in the human quarters with your educational programs. No wandering off, no interrupting official functions, and no telling the aliens that their math is wrong. Lily finished with a small smile. It had happened once during a virtual meeting, when Lily had corrected a Valen mathematician's calculations from the background. The incident had actually improved relations, but William preferred not to risk similar surprises. Exactly. This is a very important mission, Lily. Humans are still new to the galactic community. We need to make a good impression. Lily nodded seriously. I'll be good, Dad. I promise. The jump gate transit passed in a blur of swirling colors that made Lily's stomach twist, but she was too fascinated to look away. When they emerged near Centauri Prime, she gasped at the sight of the massive space station that housed the Galactic Senate. Unlike the sleek, utilitarian design of human space stations, the Senate headquarters was beautiful. Curved, crystalline spires extended from a central hub that glowed with soft blue light. Hundreds of ships of various designs moved around it like fish in a cosmic sea. It's bigger than New York, Lily whispered. It houses representatives from over 200 species, William explained as their shuttle approached a docking bay. Some of them are quite different from humans. Try not to stare. Lily soon discovered that not staring was impossible. As they passed through the arrival terminal, she saw creatures that defied imagination. Tall, willowy beings with iridescent skin floated rather than walked. Small, six-armed technicians scurried along the ceiling in special gravity-reversed pathways. Massive entities that looked like walking crystals communicated through pulses of light. A blue-skinned humanoid with silver markings around her eyes approached them. Ambassador Crawford, welcome back to Centauri Prime. I am Liaison Officer Neela. I will be assisting you during your stay. Her eyes shifted to Lily. And this must be the young human mentioned in your updated manifest. My daughter, Lily, William confirmed. Thank you for accommodating the change on short notice. Neela smiled, revealing slightly pointed teeth. Of course, the Senate values family bonds across all species. We have prepared suitable quarters. She bent slightly to address Lily directly. Young one, you are now one of very few human children to ever visit the Senate. I hope you find it educational. Lily nodded shyly, clutching her tablet tighter as they followed Neela through massive corridors. Everywhere she looked, there was something new and strange. Different gravity sections allowed various species to move comfortably. The air occasionally shifted in scent and composition as they passed through subtle atmospheric barriers. Dad, she whispered, tugging his sleeve and pointing to a group of floating, jellyfish-like creatures. What are those? Medullan Diplomatic Corps, William whispered back. Remember your manners. But the Medullans had already noticed her interest. One drifted closer, its tentacles glowing with gentle patterns of light. A small human, it communicated, the words appearing as text in the air through some unseen technology. How fascinating. They are so rarely seen here. Lily waved hesitantly, and the Medullan's lights pulsed in what seemed to be a friendly pattern before rejoining its group. As they continued deeper into the Senate complex, Lily knew one thing for certain. This was going to be the most interesting week of her life. The next morning, Lily sat quietly in the back of the meeting room as her father discussed trade agreements with representatives from 12 different worlds. She had promised to focus on her educational programs, but the alien diplomats were far more interesting than math problems she could solve in her sleep. Ambassador Crawford, the human delegation, is scheduled for a cultural tour after this session, Liaison Officer Neela announced when the meeting ended. The Senate Museum of Galactic Heritage is particularly recommended for first-time visitors. William nodded. That sounds perfect. Lily would enjoy that too, wouldn't you? Lily perked up immediately. A museum with alien stuff. Several of the departing diplomats chuckled at her enthusiasm. The museum was located in the central hub of the station. Unlike Earth museums with their glass cases and rope barriers, this one used subtle force fields and gravity controls to display artifacts from hundreds of civilizations. Holographic information appeared as visitors approached each display. Their guide was a tall, thin alien named Sen, who had pale green skin and 4 arms. The museum contains artifacts from all 218 member species of the Confederation, Sen explained, as well as relics from civilizations that existed before our recorded history. Lily tried to stay with the group as they moved through exhibits of ancient space vessels, first contact documents, and artistic masterpieces from across the galaxy. But her attention kept wandering to different displays that caught her eye. This ceremonial mask is from the Draconis system, Stan was saying to the group. The crystalline structure changes color based on the emotional state of the wearer. While the adults examined the mask, Lily drifted away from the group. Something in a far corner of the vast hall had caught her attention, a soft, pulsing light that seemed to call to her. In a simple display stand sat a cube about the size of her hands put together. Unlike the other exhibits with their detailed holographic information, this one had only a small, simple description. The Axiom Cube. Discovery date: 3,247 standard years ago. Origin: unknown. The cube was made of a dark material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange lines and patterns covered its surface, occasionally lighting up with a faint blue glow before fading again. As Lily stepped closer, the patterns began to pulse more frequently. "You should not be here alone, young human," a deep voice said behind her. Lily jumped and turned to see a tall figure in formal robes. The alien had reddish-brown scales instead of skin and eyes with vertical pupils like a cat. "I'm sorry," Lily said quickly. "I just wanted to see this cube." The alien's head tilted to one side. Interesting. Few visitors noticed the Axiom Cube. "I am Curator Kelzar." He gestured to the cube. "This artifact has puzzled the greatest minds in the galaxy for over 3,000 years. "What does it do?" Lily asked, moving closer to the display. "No one knows for certain. It was discovered in the ruins of what we believe was a precursor outpost." Precursors. The first civilization. They seeded the galaxy with life and technology before mysteriously vanishing. This cube is believed to contain vast knowledge, but no one has ever activated it properly. Kelzar's voice took on a reverent tone. "The patterns you see are believed to be a complex mathematical code." Lily stared at the patterns, her mind automatically looking for sequences and relationships between the symbols. They seemed strangely familiar, though she couldn't explain why. "The lights are getting brighter," she observed. Kelzar's eyes widened. "That is unusual. The cube rarely responds to observers." He studied Lily with new interest. "What do you see when you look at these patterns, young human?" "Numbers," Lily said simply, "and shapes that make other shapes when you put them together." Her fingers traced patterns in the air as she followed the sequence. It's like the cube is trying to talk, but nobody's listening right way. Lily, William called from across the hall. There you are. Don't wander off like that. Coming, Dad. Lily called back, reluctantly turning away from the cube. Can I come back to see the cube again? She asked Kelzar. The curator nodded slowly. Perhaps you should. Very interesting indeed. As Lily ran back to her father, Kelzar watched her go with a thoughtful expression. The cube's lights pulsed once more, brighter than before, then faded to darkness. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. The image of the Axiom Q kept appearing in her mind. The patterns on its surface seemed to dance behind her closed eyelids, forming connections that made her fingers twitch with the need to trace them. After tossing and turning for hours in the strange bed of their diplomatic quarters, she sat up and pulled out her tablet. She began to draw what she remembered of the cube's patterns, trying to capture the sequences that had seemed so familiar to her. In the next room, her father was fast asleep after a long day of negotiations. Lily knew she should wait until morning, but the puzzle of the cube pulled at her mind like a magnet. I'll just go look at it again, she whispered to herself. Just for a few minutes. She slipped out of bed and put on her shoes. The door to their quarters opened silently. The corridors of the Senate station were never completely dark, with soft ambient lighting guiding the way even at night. Many species in the Confederation didn't need sleep the way humans did, so there were always beings moving about. Lily kept to the shadows, following the path she remembered from earlier. She passed a few aliens who gave her curious looks, but didn't stop her. A small human child didn't register as a security threat in most minds. The museum was technically closed, but the main doors recognized her diplomatic guest status and opened. Inside, the vast hall was dimly lit, with only security lights casting gentle glows on the artifacts. She made her way to the far corner where the Axiom Cube sat. As she approached, the patterns on the cube began to glow brighter, as if greeting her. Hello again, Lily whispered, staring at the cube with fascination. She pulled out her tablet and began taking pictures of each side of the cube, careful not to touch the force field that protected it. The blue lines pulsed more rapidly as she worked, almost as if the cube was excited. You're not supposed to be here, a firm voice said, making Lily jump in surprise. A human woman in a security uniform stood behind her, arms crossed. Her name badge read Officer Ellis. She had dark skin and her hair was pulled back in a tight bun. I'm sorry, Lily said quickly. I just wanted to see the cube again. It has interesting patterns. Officer Ellis frowned but then looked curiously at the cube, which was glowing brighter than before. That's strange. I've worked here for 2 years, and I've never seen it do that. It does it when I get close, Lily explained. I think it likes me. Instead of scolding her further, Officer Ellis moved closer to examine the cube. What are you doing with the pictures? Lily showed her the tablet. I'm trying to understand the patterns. See, they're not random. They follow rules, like math problems. Officer Ellis looked skeptical but interested. You can see math in that jumble. Lily nodded eagerly. It's like when you fold paper to make shapes. The lines show where to fold, and if you do it right, you get something new. Her fingers moved over her tablet, tracing connections between different symbols. You really understand this? Officer Ellis asked, her voice softer now. Not all of it, Lily admitted, but I think I could if I had more time. The curator said no one has solved it in thousands of years. Officer Ellis looked at the cube, then at Lily, then at her watch. Finally, she sighed. I should take you back to your quarters. But, she paused. I have 4 more hours on my shift. If you promise to sit right here where I can see you, and not touch anything, you can keep working on your puzzle. Lily's face lit up. Really? Thank you. Don't make me regret this, Officer Ellis said, but she was smiling slightly. I'll be doing my rounds. Don't move from this spot. For the next 3 hours, Lily worked quietly, taking more pictures and making notes. The patterns were complex, but she began to see relationships between them, mathematical progressions that seemed to build on each other. When she looked at the cube from a certain angle and squinted, the patterns seemed to form a three-dimensional grid rather than separate lines. She tried modeling this on her tablet. It's not meant to be flat, she realized suddenly. Everyone's been looking at each side separately, but they're all connected. As if responding to her insight, the cube's patterns glowed brighter, and for a brief moment, the lines seemed to extend beyond the cube itself, projecting a faint grid into the air. Officer Ellis, who had been checking in regularly, saw the projection and gasped. "What did you do?" "I didn't touch it," Lily said quickly. "I just realized the patterns are all one big puzzle, not 6 small ones." The projection faded, but the cube continued to pulse with a stronger light than before. "I need to tell Curator Kelzer about this," Officer Ellis said, her eyes wide. By morning, word had spread through the Senate station about the human child who had made the Axiom Cube respond. William Crawford was awakened by an urgent message from Senate security, informing him that his daughter had been found in the museum during the night. He rushed to the museum, expecting to find Lily in trouble. Instead, he found her surrounded by a group of aliens and humans, including Curator Kelzar, Officer Ellis, and several beings in formal robes who watched Lily with intense interest. "Dad," Lily called when she saw him. "The cube talks with math, and they're letting me work on it." William looked around in confusion. "Would someone please explain what's happening?" Curator Kelzar stepped forward. "Your daughter has achieved something remarkable, Ambassador Crawford. The Axiom Cube has never responded this way to anyone in recorded history." A tall, thin alien with blue skin and no visible mouth pushed through the crowd. William recognized him as Senator Vex of the Valent Collective, one of the most technologically advanced species in the Confederation. "The human child must continue her work," Senator Vex communicated, his thoughts translated by a small device at his throat. This could be a breakthrough of galactic importance. Before William could respond, angry voices came from the entrance of the museum. A group of aliens with red scales and elaborate headdresses strode toward them. William recognized their leader as Ambassador Joss of the Zoraxian Empire. "This is sacrilege," Ambassador Joss declared, pointing a clawed finger at Lily. "The sacred cube of the ancestors is not a toy for alien children." Curator Kelzar stepped between them. "Ambassador Joss, the Axiom Cube is under Senate protection and study. It belongs to no single species. For 3,000 years, the Zoraxian people have been the spiritual guardians of the precursor artifacts," Joss insisted. "Our scholars and priests have studied the cube for generations. We will not allow an undeveloped species to meddle with it." William put a protective arm around Lily. "My daughter meant no disrespect. If this artifact is sacred to your people, we'll certainly respect that." Senator Vex moved forward. "The Zoraxians do not own the precursor legacy. If the cube responds to the human child, then she should be allowed to continue." The argument grew louder as more senators and ambassadors arrived, drawn by the commotion. Some sided with the Zoraxians, demanding that Lily be kept away from the cube. Others, particularly from scientifically minded species, argued that her unique connection to the artifact should be studied. Lily tugged on her father's sleeve. "Dad, they're all being silly. The cube isn't mad at me." "How do you know that?" William asked quietly. "Because it keeps getting brighter when I get closer," Lily explained. "See." She took a small step toward the cube, and the patterns immediately pulsed with stronger light. Ambassador Joss hissed in surprise. Several other aliens murmured among themselves. A new voice spoke up from the back of the crowd. "I believe a special session of the Senate Science Council is in order." The crowd parted to reveal a human woman in formal diplomatic attire. William recognized her immediately. "Senator Carol Gibson," he said with relief. Earth's representative to the Senate Security Council had arrived. Senator Gibson nodded to William and then bent down to Lily's level. Hello, Lily. I hear you've made quite a discovery. The cube has patterns that make shapes, Lily said simply. Nobody was looking at them the right way before. Senator Gibson straightened and addressed the crowd. I propose that a special committee be formed to oversee this matter. The human child will be allowed to continue her research under proper supervision, with representatives from all interested parties present. Ambassador Joss started to object, but Senator Gibson continued. Additionally, I invite Juraxian scholars to participate directly. If this is indeed a sacred artifact to your people, your insights would be valuable. The compromise calmed some of the tension. After much discussion, it was agreed that Lily would be allowed to continue studying the cube in a controlled environment. As the crowd dispersed to prepare for the formal committee meeting, William pulled Senator Gibson aside. Carol, what's really going on here? Why is everyone so interested in an old puzzle? Senator Gibson's expression was serious. The Axiom Cube is believed to contain knowledge from the precursors, the first civilization in our galaxy. If your daughter can unlock it, this could change humanity's standing in the Confederation overnight. She glanced at Lily, who was showing Officer Ellis her notes. Either way, she's in the middle of a political storm now. The next day, Lily sat in a large circular room that had been set up for her to work on the Axiom Cube. The cube now rested on a special platform in the center of the room, its force field adjusted to allow for closer observation while still protecting the artifact. Around the edges of the room, representatives from 12 different species watched her work. The Juraxians had sent 2 priests who sat stiffly in their ceremonial robes, their scaled faces unreadable. The Valens had a team of 3 scientists who monitored everything with various scanning devices. Senator Gibson sat near William, occasionally whispering explanations to him about the political implications of what was happening. Lily ignored the adults as best she could. She had been given better tools to work with, a holographic projector that could create 3-dimensional models of her ideas, and access to the Senate's database of mathematical concepts from across the galaxy. A woman named Dr. Karen Winters had been brought in from Earth's embassy to help Lily. She was a xenolinguist who specialized in mathematical communication between species. Try explaining again how you see the patterns, Lily, Dr. Winters encouraged. Sometimes different species have different ways of understanding math. Lily pointed to her holographic model, which showed the cube unfolded into a flat pattern. It's like when you fold paper to make a shape, but backwards. The cube isn't showing us how to fold it. It's showing how to unfold something much bigger. Dr. Winters turned to the watching aliens. She may be referring to a dimensional transformation concept. In human mathematics, children often learn spatial relationships through physical models before advancing to abstract concepts. One of the Valen scientists moved closer. The child sees what we have missed because her mind is not constrained by formal mathematical training. Fascinating. A Juraxian priest hissed in disagreement. Or perhaps she imagines patterns that do not exist. The sacred texts speak of the awakening of the cube, but only through proper spiritual preparation. Lily ignored them and continued working with her model. She adjusted the hologram, spinning it in different directions. The patterns on the cube pulsed in response, growing brighter when she moved in certain directions and dimmer in others. It's like a game of hot and cold, she muttered to herself. What do you mean? Dr. Winters asked. It's a game kids play. When you're getting closer to finding something hidden, someone says warmer or hot. When you're going the wrong way, they say colder. Lily pointed to the cube. See how it gets brighter when I move the model this way. It's telling me I'm getting warmer. Dr. Winters' eyes widened. The cube is responding to your thought processes. It's guiding you. One of the Valen scientists quickly adjusted a scanner. Confirmed. The energy patterns within the cube shift in response to the child's manipulations of the model. This is unprecedented. For the next hour, Lily followed the cube's hot and cold guidance, adjusting her model based on the brightness of the patterns. Slowly, a new shape began to form in the hologram, no longer a cube, but something more complex with multiple interconnected parts. "I think I understand now," Lily said suddenly. "The cube isn't the puzzle, it's the key." The room fell silent as everyone stared at her. "What do you mean, child?" asked one of the Zoraxian priests, leaning forward despite himself. "The patterns aren't meant to be solved the way grown-ups try to solve things," Lily explained. "They're meant to be played with, like a kid would play. The cube wants us to have fun with it." Dr. Winters frowned. "I'm not sure I follow." Lily sighed, frustrated that the adults couldn't see what seemed so obvious to her. When grown-ups try to solve puzzles, they work really hard and get all serious. But when kids solve puzzles, we play and try silly things and laugh. I think the cube wants us to be more like kids. The aliens looked at each other in confusion, but Senator Gibson nodded slowly. The precursors were known for valuing creativity and joy in their few surviving texts. Perhaps there's something to what she's saying. Lily stood up from her chair and approached the cube directly. "I think I need to talk to it." "Talk to it?" William asked, concerned. "Not with words," Lily explained. She held her hands out toward the cube, stopping just short of the force field. "With patterns." The cube's light began to pulse rapidly, matching the rhythm of Lily's heartbeat. The force field around the Axiom cube was lowered at Lily's request, despite strong objections from the Zoraxian priests. Senator Gibson had to personally approve the decision, arguing that after 3,000 years of no progress, new approaches were needed. "Be careful, Lily," William said, his voice tight with worry. Lily nodded, then focused all her attention on the cube. The patterns were pulsing in time with her heartbeat now, creating a rhythm that seemed to flow between her and the artifact. She held her hands close to the cube without touching it, moving them as if conducting music. "It's singing," she whispered. Dr. Winters leaned forward. "What do you mean?" "Not with sounds. With math. The patterns are like music notes, but for numbers." Lily closed her eyes, her hands still moving to the rhythm only she could fully perceive. The entire room watched in stunned silence as the patterns on the cube began to shift and change. Lines that had been fixed for thousands of years started to move, flowing across the surface like water. "Impossible," one of the Zoraxian priests gasped. "She's doing it," Dr. Winters said. "She's communicating with it." Lily opened her eyes and smiled at the cube. Then, very gently, she touched one finger to its surface. A flash of blue light filled the room, momentarily blinding everyone. When they could see again, the cube was hovering 6 inches above the platform, spinning slowly. The patterns had transformed completely, now projecting a complex 3-dimensional hologram into the air above it. The hologram showed a map of the galaxy, with several points highlighted by pulsing lights. "It worked." Lily clapped her hands in delight. "It's showing us where to go." The aliens in the room erupted into chaos. The Zoraxian priests fell to their knees, chanting in their native language. The Valen scientists rushed forward with their instruments, trying to record everything. Representatives from other species called urgently to their governments on communication devices. William pushed through the crowd to reach his daughter. "Are you okay? What happened?" "I played the game right," Lily said simply. The cube was waiting for someone who could play with it instead of trying to break it open. Dr. Winters was studying the holographic map. "These coordinates, they're spread throughout the galaxy. What are they?" Suddenly, the cube emitted a soft humming sound, and words appeared in the air above it, cycling through different languages until it settled on English. "Educational Network Access Protocol activated. Welcome, young minds. This key has been calibrated to your species' developmental patterns. Access granted to Precursor Learning Network." Senator Gibson pushed forward. "It's a key to the Precursor educational system," she said in awe. "Not a weapon or a power source as many feared, but knowledge." The Zoraxians had stopped chanting and were now staring at the cube in shock. The sacred texts, They spoke of the ancestors' wisdom being shared when worthy students appeared. We always believed it meant our people. One of the Valen scientists moved closer to the projection. These coordinates must be the locations of precursor educational facilities. They'd been waiting all this time for someone to unlock the network. The cube hummed again, and more text appeared. Calibration complete. Primary user identified. A beam of blue light scanned Lily from head to toe. Species: human. Development stage: early learning phase. Cognitive pattern: optimum for initial access. Lily giggled as the light tickled her. It likes me. It more than likes you, Dr. Winters said, her voice filled with wonder. It's chosen you as its primary user. The implications of this hit everyone in the room at once. A human child, from a species that had joined the Galactic Confederation only 5 years ago, had been selected by precursor technology to access the most ancient and advanced knowledge in the galaxy. Ambassador Joss of the Zoraxian Empire entered the room, his face grim. The Senate chamber is in chaos. Every species is demanding information about what has happened here. Senator Gibson's expression was firm. Tell them that we have made first contact with the precursor's legacy and that it has chosen to speak through humanity. More specifically, Dr. Winters added, through a child. That may be the most important part of all. The precursors designed their system to respond to minds that were still developing, still full of wonder and creativity. The cube pulsed with light again, and a new message appeared. Ready to begin first lesson. Primary user, please indicate when you wish to proceed. All eyes in the room turned to Lily, who was looking at the cube with pure delight in her eyes. Now please, she said without hesitation. I want to learn everything. 2 weeks after Lily activated the Axiom Cube, she stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Cosmic Horizon. The ship was the fastest in the Confederation fleet, assigned to visit the first precursor site identified by the cube. Captain Daniel Royce, a veteran human spacer, had been given command of this historic mission. Approaching coordinates now, announced the navigation officer, a blue-skinned Arcturian whose 6-fingered hands moved gracefully across the control panel. Lily pressed her face against the viewport. She could barely contain her excitement as the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Her father stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. Since the cube's activation, William had been appointed as special envoy to the newly formed Precursor Studies Committee. I don't see anything, Lily said, disappointed. Outside was only empty space and distant stars. Senator Gibson, who had insisted on joining the expedition, frowned. The coordinates are precise. The facility should be right here. From the back of the bridge, Ambassador Joss made a dismissive sound. The Zoraxian representative had demanded to be included in the mission, along with his aide, a younger Zoraxian named Hizak. Perhaps the human child's connection to the sacred artifact was merely a coincidence, Ambassador Joss suggested. Or perhaps the coordinates were misinterpreted. Captain Royce ignored the comment. Run a full sensor sweep. The facility could be cloaked or dormant. While the adults discussed possibilities, Lily noticed something odd. The Axiom Cube, which now traveled with her in a special container, was pulsing with light again. She opened the container and held the cube in her hands. It wants to help, she said, interrupting the adults. Everyone turned to look at her as she brought the cube closer to the viewport. Its patterns changed, forming a new sequence that projected a narrow beam of light out into space. There, shouted one of the Valen scientists, something is reflecting the beam. The sensors quickly located what the cube had illuminated, a small asteroid that had been invisible to their scanners. As they watched, the surface of the asteroid seemed to shift and transform, revealing a structure built into its core. Take us closer, Captain Royce ordered. As the ship approached, they could see that the asteroid contained a facility of some kind. Its design was unlike anything in known space, flowing, organic lines combined with geometric precision that seemed both ancient and futuristic at once. The Axiom Cube is transmitting data to the facility, reported the communications officer. "We're receiving a response. It's opening an entry point for us." A door appeared in the side of the asteroid, revealing a docking bay perfectly sized for their shuttle. "Prepare a landing party," Captain Royce said. "Ambassador Crawford, Senator Gibson, Ambassador Joss, and our scientific team will accompany me. The rest of you stay on board and maintain ready status." Ambassador Joss stepped forward. "The child must remain here. It is too dangerous." "No," Lily protested, clutching the cube tighter. "It won't work without me. The cube chose me." William looked torn between protecting his daughter and recognizing the truth of her words. Senator Gibson made the decision for him. "The cube responds primarily to Lily. If we want to access the facility, she needs to come with us." The landing party boarded the shuttle and traveled to the asteroid facility. As they passed through the entry port, lights activated along corridors that seemed to have been waiting for millennia to welcome visitors. The Axiom Cube pulsed more rapidly in Lily's hands as they walked deeper into the facility. They entered a large chamber with a circular platform in its center. "Put the cube on the platform," Dr. Winters suggested. Lily hesitated, then carefully placed the cube on the indicated spot. Immediately, the entire chamber lit up with holographic displays, showing complicated diagrams and text in an unknown language. "It's beautiful," Lily whispered. Suddenly, she noticed Hizak, the young Zoraxian aide, staring at one of the displays with unusual intensity. Unlike the other adults who seemed confused by the information, Hizak appeared to understand something. "You can see it too, can't you?" Lily asked him quietly. Hizak looked startled, then nodded slightly. "The patterns, they speak to me as well. Not as clearly as they do to you, but I can sense their meaning." Before they could discuss this further, the central platform began to transform. The cube rose into the air, surrounding itself with a complex holographic interface. A gentle voice spoke in perfect English. "Welcome, young learners. This facility has waited 12,437 standard years for new students. Please approach for educational profile calibration." To everyone's surprise, the system seemed to be addressing both Lily and Hizak. 6 months after the discovery of the first precursor facility, the Galactic Senate gathered for a special session. The Grand Chamber was filled to capacity with representatives from all member species. At the center of attention were 2 children, Lily Crawford from Earth and Hizak from the Zoraxian Empire. The 2 young students stood confidently before the assembly. They had spent months learning from the precursor educational system, absorbing knowledge that had been waiting for millennia to be rediscovered. What had started as a rivalry between them had blossomed into friendship and mutual respect. A High Senate recognizes Lily Crawford of Earth and Hizak of Zorax, announced the Senate President, a tall being with iridescent wings. "You may present your findings." Lily stepped forward first, no longer the shy girl who had arrived at the Senate months ago. The Axiom Cube floated beside her, its patterns now familiar and comforting. "The precursors left this educational network for a reason," she began, her voice carrying through the chamber. "They wanted to make sure that when we found each other, when different species from across the galaxy began to work together, we would have guidance." Isaac continued, his scaled face solemn. "They did not leave weapons or power sources as many hoped. Instead, they left knowledge and a message, that the greatest strength comes from diversity of thought." Together, they activated the cube. A massive hologram appeared above the Senate floor, showing a map of all 7 precursor facilities that had been discovered so far. Each facility specialized in different fields: mathematics, biology, physics, ethics, art, history, and philosophy. "The precursors discovered something important," Lily explained. "No single species can see the whole picture. Different minds think in different ways. That's not a weakness. It's our greatest strength." The Senate listened in amazed silence as the 2 children explained how the precursor system worked. It was designed to respond differently to each species, presenting information in ways that matched their natural thinking patterns. But the full knowledge could only be accessed when different species worked together, combining their perspectives. That's why the cube chose two of us. Hizak said, I see patterns in sound and rhythm that Lily cannot. Lily sees connections in space and time that I cannot. Together, we can understand so much more. Ambassador Joss, who had once opposed Lily's involvement, stepped forward. The Juraxian Empire formally acknowledges that our sacred texts were correct, but our interpretation was wrong. The ancestors wished their knowledge to be shared among all worthy students, regardless of species. Senator Gibson spoke next. Earth proposes the establishment of a galactic education initiative, with schools on each member world where children from different species can learn together using the precursor methods. The cube pulsed with light, and a new hologram appeared, showing children of various species playing and learning together. It was the future the precursors had envisioned when they left their legacy behind. The Senate voted unanimously to approve the initiative. As the session ended, reporters surrounded Lily and Hizak, asking endless questions about their experiences and discoveries. Later that evening, William found Lily sitting quietly in their quarters, working on a puzzle with Hizak. It wasn't an assignment, they were doing it just for fun. I'm proud of you, William told his daughter. You've changed the galaxy. Lily looked up and smiled. Not really. The precursors knew someone would solve their puzzle eventually. They just had to wait for someone who would look at it the right way. And that happened to be a human child, William said with wonder in his voice. Not because I'm human, Lily corrected him. Because I'm a kid. Grown-ups try to solve puzzles by breaking them apart. Kids solve puzzles by playing with them. Hizak nodded in agreement. In my culture, we are taught from hatching to respect ancient ways, but Lily taught me that sometimes new eyes see old truths better. In the corner of the room, the Axiom Cube glowed softly, its mission finally complete after thousands of years of waiting. It had found not just one worthy student, but an entire galaxy of them. And it had all started with a human child who saw patterns where others saw only complexity, who approached an ancient puzzle not with reverence or ambition, but with joy and wonder, the same qualities that had always driven humanity to reach for the stars. As the first classes at the new Precursor Academy prepared to begin, with students from 50 different worlds, Lily knew that this was just the beginning. The greatest puzzle of all, how different species could learn from each other and grow together, was one they would all solve together, one piece at a time.